Hello and welcome. This is Eric from AG Racing Central. The classic WipeOut series has equally classic teams like Pfizer, AG Systems and Oricon. However, in WipeOut 2097 or WipeOut XL depending on where you live, Piranha stood at the pinnacle of technical innovation with a ship that had all stats maxed out. Today though, in the HD Fury part of WipeOut Omega Collection, few players seem to be opting for Piranha in either online racing or time trials. How did this very classic WipeOut team fall into the shadows? Let's take a look at what happened to Piranha. According to the lore, Piranha was a fusion between two Brazilian companies named Pir and Hana, whose names combined just by coincidence sounded a lot like a certain carnivorous fish species, making them want to build anti-gravity racing crafts that also looked a bit like a fish. It took them a while to come up with this idea though, as in the first ever anti-gravity racing league in 2048, the craft featured pointy, aggressive designs rather than the sleek, rounded shapes that later became so iconic for the team. After taking a break from the racing scene and instead producing air brakes for AG Systems and Oricon, they returned to the scene for the F5000 League, had their name changed to Piranha, and truly stared into the skid on the whole fish concept. They also produced a craft superior to that of any other team except for its inability to carry weapons. In the leagues to come, Piranha's ships didn't come close to the same level of perfection and instead focused on light frames and agility with expertise provided by the recently procured Assegai team. Several years later, by the time of the FX350 League featuring WipeOut HD, Piranha's founder, Aris Piermont, had passed away and the team was bought by the Brazilian government. The ships from this point forward had a strong focus on top speed and a more sturdy, heavily shielded frame. Piranha has had appearances in all WipeOut games except for the first one and is considered to be one of the most classic teams in the entire franchise. In its first appearance in WipeOut 2097, Piranha was a secret team that had all stats maxed out but couldn't pick up weapons. In the subsequent titles, the team has not been a special unlockable outlier, but rather one with stats that are balanced out just like the rest of the teams. Piranha's strengths and weaknesses have differed a bit over the years, but in the later iterations, meaning WipeOut Pure for PSP and forwards, the team have been synonymous with high top speed and shield durability, but subpar thrust and handling. This was also the case in the team's appearance in WipeOut 2048, and even if the different ship classes had their own characteristics, the overall emphasis was still on the same aspects that Piranha had in WipeOut HD and Fury. In this video, I'll be discussing the Piranha ship in the HD and Fury part of WipeOut Omega Collection. Looking back on WipeOut 2097/XL, a ship with no weapons but with stats perfect in every other way, signaled that this was a ship for highly skilled, experienced pilots, not needing to rely on weapons and gadgets to come first over the finish line. The spirit of this concept has been preserved in Piranha's later iterations as a heavy, extremely fast but hard to maneuver ship definitely signals that it's something for the experts. And with a franchise like WipeOut that has existed for so long, we certainly have experts in the online lobbies of WipeOut Omega Collection. However, you hardly ever see the ship being picked, and Piranha doesn't seem to be the main go-to ship in time trials either. How has this once iconic team fallen out of the spotlight? First off, WipeOut Omega Collection is a game played solo a majority of the time for most players, and if Piranha is your favorite team for whatever reason, let no one stop you from using and enjoying their ship. The lore about WipeOut is quite expansive, and I've personally spent hours on the wiki page, reading about the history of each team. This information alone can be enough for you to pick a favorite, but at some point, looking at the different ship's stats and picking one that suits the upcoming event or your playstyle is inevitable. In WipeOut HD, each ship represents a certain racing archetype and no two ships have the same stats. For example, Pfizer with their maxed out handling is perfect for someone learning the game, but the player who has mastered side shifting and air braking will probably see much more success with a ship with a higher speed stat. There are three teams with their speed stat maxed out: Piranha, Icarus, and Tigron. In WipeOut, there are also hidden stats, like how much the ship drifts in the corners, weight, and other things not clearly signaled by the stats shown on the team selection screen. The bulk of your ship's performance, however, will come from the main four stats: speed, thrust, handling, and shield. The main difference between these three speed-focused teams are that Piranha's secondary focus lies on the shield strength, and the ship is lacking when compared to Tigron and Icarus when it comes to both thrust and handling. When you take the Fury versions into the mix, Piranhas have slightly increased thrust and handling, but Icarus has the highest values in these stats out of all the three top speed ships. In time trials and speed laps, shield is an irrelevant stat. You do lose shield energy when performing a barrel roll, but it's immediately restored, leading to the conclusion that Icarus is the more sensible pick for events with just your craft on the track. In a single race against other opponents with weapons turned on, shield is of course relevant, but a higher handling stat is almost always preferable since most tracks have plentiful weapon pads for quick energy recovery. Maintaining a good racing line with a low handling stat is achievable for a skilled pilot in a speed lap or time trial event, but in a single race you have dynamic obstacles like other ships, mines and bombs. A better handling stat can definitely help you quickly adapt on how you handle the track while not losing too much speed in the corners. This again leads to the conclusion that both Icarus and Tigron might be ships more suitable for most players who prefer a high top speed over superior handling and thrust, like for example Assegai and Harimau. The way the Piranha ship feels to fly might just appeal to some players, or perhaps you're just an old school Piranha fan heavily invested in the lore and the history of the team. But from an objective point of view, there seems to be a superior option for most scenarios. I mean, since the introduction of Harimau, Piranha isn't even the ship that mostly resembles a fish anymore. All this being said, I did play a lot of Piranha making this video, and I would have to say that after getting used to the sluggish nature of the craft, piloting the Piranha ship does come with some satisfaction. During the best of times, the heavy frame, fast top speed and high shield stat can make you feel like you're piloting an unstoppable supersonic tank. However, taking forever to come up to top speed after a weapon hit and bumping into walls and corners even with max air braking and a perfect racing line is not the best of feelings, so enjoying the Piranha ship does come at the cost of a lot of practicing. Those are my thoughts on the Piranha ship and the team's place in the meta WipeOut HD. Is there an aspect you think I missed, or do you disagree with me in some other way? Feel free to leave a comment, as I welcome a constructive discussion. You may also want to check out my video about why WipeOut Omega Collection is a game you don't want to miss. Thank you for watching. I am Eric from AG Racing Central, and I'll see you in the next video.